All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the big weekend for the Harbaugh brothers. It's a good weekend for them, of course. Obviously on Sunday, so we'll talk about John first. Um, the Dolphins are coming to town. Last year, of course, they had that comeback win against them in Baltimore. I mean, the Ravens were up, what was it, like 35 to 13, or 35-14. And the Dolphins were able to come back and win that game. I think the final score, they had it airing on NFL Network. I think the final score was 42 to 38, I think. An insane game. So you kind of thought that was going to be the same thing here. A lot of scoring. However, the Dolphins were coming in a little banged up. I mean, and, the injuries just kept coming. You had Bradley Chubb getting hurt late in this game, and he's going to be out for the rest of the year. I think it's an ACL injury, which is just devastating. But yeah, it's just they're getting again bad stuff happened to them at the wrong time with the playoffs coming up. So, and then of course you got a big divisional game against the Bills next week. So yeah, but the Dolphins, they did get off to a good start in this game. They went 8 plays, 75 yards down the field. Tua connected with Cedric Wilson for an 8-yard touchdown. So that put them up 7-0, and you're like, oh boy, here we go. Then the Ravens, they answered with a touchdown. Lamar Jackson connected with Justice Hill for a 20-yard touchdown, so that tied the game. Then the Dolphins kicked a field goal to put them up 10-7. So it was 10-7 after the first quarter. But then things started to change. So then the Ravens, they scored another touchdown. Gus Edwards from 1 yard out. That was set up by a Lamar Jackson to Odell Beckham Jr. 33-yard reception, which had to be reviewed because they didn't know if he was in bounds when he caught the ball or if he maintained possession. But then they ruled it complete, so that set it up. Then the Dolphins kicked a field goal. Ravens, another touchdown to make it 21-10 or 21-13. Lamar Jackson connected with Zay Flowers for a 75-yard touchdown. Well, yeah, that was the only play of the drive. Then Tua threw a pick. Ravens turned that into a touchdown. That was to Isaiah Likely, who, listen, with Mark Andrews being out, Likely's really stepped up. So, yeah, that put them up 28-13, and that was the score at the half. Then the Ravens, they opened up the second half with another touchdown. That was Likely's second, so that made it 35-13. Dolphins punted. Then the Ravens fumbled, and then Tua threw another pick. Ravens punted. Then the Dolphins scored a touchdown to make it 35-19. Tua connected with Devon Achane for a 1-yard touchdown. Ravens scored another touchdown. Lamar Jackson connected with Patrick Ricard, the fullback, for a 4-yard touchdown, so that made it 42-19. Dolphins turned it over on downs. Melvin Gordon scored a touchdown in this game to make it 49-19. Then the Dolphins fumbled. Ravens turned that into another touchdown. Tyler Huntley throwing a 19-yard touchdown to Kalar. If that's how you pronounce it. I apologize. So that made it 56-19, and that was the final score of the game. For the Dolphins, Tua went 22 of 38, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Devon Achane, 14 carries for 107 yards. He also had a receiving touchdown. Tyreek Hill went 6 for 76. Durham Smythe was their second leading receiver. 3 for 54. Achane had 4 for 30 and a touchdown. Cedric Wilson had 2 for 27 and a touchdown. And they were without Waddle. So you're without Waddle. Like I said, Chubb gets hurt late in the game. I don't think Xavier Howard, I don't think, played in this game either. So, yeah, the Dolphins are pretty banged up. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 18 to 21, 321 yards. Passing, Gus Edwards was their leading rusher. He had 68 yards rushing on the ground for a touchdown. Justice Hill had 48 yards rushing. Zay Flowers had 3 receptions for 106 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, the big 75-yard touchdown. Justice Hill had 5 for 64 and a touchdown. Rashad Bateman, 4 for 54. Isaiah Likely had 2 receptions for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. Odell Beckham Jr. had 1 for 33. Ravens just dominated this game from start to finish. And they're the 1 seed. It's gonna go through Baltimore. This is probably the best team that Lamar Jackson has played with. And we'll see if they end up resting their starters next week against the Steelers. But I know I see, like, on social media especially, that, some Ravens fans are against that because when Lamar Jackson won MVP, back in 2019, they rested their starters the final week of the regular season. Then you get to the divisional round against Ryan Tannehill and the Titans, and they ended up losing. They played pretty flat. They came out flat, and they were down by a lot, and they couldn't overcome the deficit. They ended up losing the game. So we'll see how they approach that this time around. But now people are talking about Lamar Jackson being the MVP. And listen, these last 2 weeks he's been great. But again, when you look at the stats of the quarterbacks, I mean, they're not overall that impressive. Because when we've seen, Peyton Manning win it and Rodgers and Mahomes and Brady, like when they were winning MVPs, they had really impressive stats. Here, it's like, it's not that, not to say that, guys aren't having good seasons, but they're not having, this is like, again, this is the year that you wouldn't give it to a quarterback, but it might be Lamar Jackson that ends up getting it the way he's been playing. It's really, right now this MVP award is what have you done for me lately? And right now Lamar Jackson is, he's the lead candidate for MVP at this moment. And how the team has been playing. I mean, the impressive win against the 49ers. You blow out you dominated the 49ers, but, you really blew out the Dolphins. It was close. I mean, the Dolphins went right down the field in the first drive, and you're like, all right, here we go. But after that, it was pure domination by the Ravens. So we'll see how they approach next week. But, hey, they got the 1 seed, and it's gonna be they're going to be tough to beat. Because right now they look like the best team in the NFL. It's between them and the Niners, but right now you'd probably, put the Ravens over the Niners just because of what the Ravens were able to do to the Niners on Christmas. But those are the top 2 teams right now. And again, this is the best team that Lamar Jackson, I think, has played with. Zay Flowers has had a great rookie season. Again, Isaiah Likely has stepped up in the absence of Mark Andrews. They're still able to run the football decently. Obviously, their running back situation is always, it seems like it's always tough every year. Guys getting hurt, but, and the defense, they were without Kyle Hamilton yesterday. I think Marlon Humphrey, he got hurt as well. Banged up secondary against the Dolphins with Tyreek Hill, you thought would be an issue, but no, they're still rolling. So now they play Pittsburgh next week to finish off the year, and then the regular season, and then we'll see them in the playoffs. That was John Harbaugh. Now we go to Jim Harbaugh. So Michigan against Alabama, great game yesterday. Michigan got the win 27-20. Came down to, it had to go to overtime. So we'll run through that quickly. So we still got some time here, but so both teams punted to start the game. Then Alabama went on a 4-play, 44-yard drive down the field. 34-yard run by McLennan to make it 7-0 Alabama. Then Michigan answered with a 10-play, 75-yard drive down the field to tie the game at 7. J.J. McCarthy completed a pass to Blake Corum, the running back, for an 8-yard touchdown, so that tied the game at 7. Then both teams punted. That's how the first quarter ended. Then Michigan went up 13-7. They missed the extra point. Actually, no, they went for 2. My mistake. And J.J. McCarthy completed a pass to Morris for a 38-yard touchdown. So that made it 13-7. And like I said, they actually no. What was it? Well, it says a 2-point conversion, but isn't that because I think the I don't know. Whatever. Needless to say, 13-7. Because I know at one point there was a botched extra point. I don't know if that might have been in the second game. But yeah, so it was 13-7. Then Alabama answered with a field goal. So that made it 13-10, and that's how it was at the half. Then both teams exchanged punts twice in the third quarter. Alabama did score a touchdown to make it 17-13. McLennan had a 3-yard touchdown. So yeah, 17-13. Then Alabama fumbled late in the fourth quarter, and you thought Michigan could capitalize on that, but they ended up missing the field goal. Then Alabama kicked the field goal, 20-13, and you thought, yeah, it might be Alabama's day again. And then J.J. McCarthy and that offense went down the field, 8 plays, 75 yards to tie the game at 20. And he connected with Wilson for a 4-yard touchdown. So then the game ended up going into overtime. Michigan scored on their first possession of overtime. Blake Corum scored a 17-yard touchdown. Alabama turned it over on downs. But they were really close. I mean, they were right there. Milroe, he had a lot of rushing attempts in this game, carries in this game, 21 carries for 63 yards. But yeah, I mean, the Michigan defense pretty much just blew up the play on that final play, and that was it. Michigan ends up winning 27-20, and they advance to the national championship. So looking at the stats for this game, so Jalen Milroe, he went 16-23, 116 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Like I said, he had 63 yards rushing. Jace McClellan had 14 carries for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. The leading receiver was Isaiah Bond. He had 4 for 47. And then on the Michigan side of things, J.J. McCarthy went 17-27, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Blake Corum, 19 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. Roman Wilson, 4 for 73 and a touchdown. Tyler Morris, 2 for 45 and a touchdown. And Blake Corum also in the receiving game, 2 for 35 and a touchdown. But it was a great game. It really was. Michigan's now 14-0. Again, they advanced to the national championship. And, I mean, obviously a lot of controversy surrounding them this year with the whole cheating scandal. And I saw, like, the clip of them asking the media asking Nick Saban about it. And he answered it the best way he could. It was a great game. It was a great game. And, now we'll see, if they can get that national championship. I mean, right now, obviously, they are looked at as the best team right now in the nation. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was this segment, big weekend for the Harbaugh brothers. I mean, you got the Ravens with the 1 seed, and now you got Michigan going to the national championship. And we'll see if John Harbaugh can get the Ravens back to the Super Bowl. Because obviously the last time the Ravens were in the Super Bowl, it was against Jim Harbaugh when he was the coach of the 49ers. So which was a great Super Bowl, which is going to be 12 years old, that Super Bowl, which is 11 years old, because technically it happened in 2013. It was the 2012-2013 season. But yeah, 11 years old. I mean, yeah, that was again, that's just how fast time flies here. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it when talking about the Harbaugh brothers. Like I said, big weekend for them. Let me know what you guys think about both of those games, about the Ravens, about Michigan. So that's this topic here. So when we come back, we'll recap the rest of the games. We'll go through them pretty quickly because there's a bunch of them, of course, as well as the other college football playoff game between Washington and Texas. So we'll get into that as well. And, that'll pretty much be it for the show today. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.